limitations and other relevant study on the situation and the history of people of Afghanistan across the world, and thus supporting the work.
My name is Associate Professor David Bickler. I'm the co-chair of AAUN for Australia, and I'm also the Dean Global Africa and Director of the Centre for Australia-Africa Relations at Curtin University. On behalf of the Australia-Africa Universities Network, AAUN, I am delighted to welcome you to our AAUN Annual Forum 2025 here in Perth, which is being co-hosted by Edith Cowan University and Curtin University as part of our National Australia-Africa Week that we hold every year here in Perth in September. AAUN, established in 2012, is the flagship collaborative network of universities from across our two continents. Yesterday, we were delighted to officially admit RMIT University from Melbourne as the 11th Australian member and 26th overall member of AAUN, and we have some RMIT delegates here today, so welcome to AAUN. Colleagues, I'd also like to acknowledge the high level of diplomatic representation we have here today in the room. At one point I counted 12 heads of mission. I'm not sure how many are actually in the room, but that's probably a record for us. So thank you again for your ongoing support and continuous engagement with AAUN, both here in Australia and when we're in Africa. I'd also like to acknowledge our visiting delegates from across Africa and Eastern Australia. It's wonderful to see you here as we continue this great collaboration now into our 13th year of AAUN. I also acknowledge the AAUN Africa Group led by my co-chair, Professor Aldo Strobel, and Secretariat, Dr. Susie Munialo, as well as my Australia Deputy Co-Chair, Associate Professor Janet Cartel. We have a great team here at AAUN. Colleagues, I'd also like to acknowledge the sad passing last November of Professor John Hearn, AAUN co-founder and inaugural Australian co-chair. We have provided a number of tributes to Professor Hearn since that time, and later today we'll be announcing some further initiatives to honour his legacy. This is the first AAUN forum in Australia without him, and his presence, wisdom and leadership are greatly missed by all. On behalf of AAUN, I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we're meeting here today in Bullabut, and pay our respects to elders past and present. I would now like to invite Karen Jacobs.
And the traditional owners, the First Peoples of Bali, and have a talk to them. You get a very different conversation, just like you do with us, being here in Australia, of the First Peoples and I guess the immense concerns and dilemmas that we still face even today. And a lot of that is dealing with past traumas. But before I get started into my very small cultural awareness program for you this morning, I'll go into my actual welcome. So kaya wanyan moment yakin murich pala. Yaning jerbin yakin nature. Nunik nalang wonkini. Nalang mort wajak wajak. Nalang borlu wajak burning. Punigan jiningan ni jabuja. Yaning mort wajak wor kora mort. Nija wajak wajak. So hence what I've said to you this morning in my language is welcome. Welcome to you all. Welcome if you're a first-time visitor. As I said before, welcome if you're a repeat visitor. Responsibility is in today's society. It's the highest level of respect. So in all of that, while you've all been sitting here, I've acknowledged you all and actually covered you with our Whadjuk spiritual blessing while you were visiting on our country, that no harm will come to you. And that is the other reason for doing, the intangible reason for doing Welcome to Country, because at the same time, I'm providing you with a covering to make sure that no harm comes to you while you're on our country. Of course, when you walk outside the door of the Duxton, I can't always control your social behaviour. And I don't want you to have too loose of a social licence when we're out in the street. But within reason and using common sense's approach, we will look after you. We may not be there visually in front of you, but however, as a tradition.
two of the highlights of our engagements every year. I also acknowledge Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Deputy Co-Chair for Africa, who's the Vice-Chancellor of Makerere University, in his absence. So colleagues, David has indicated we are a very strong but very rapidly growing influential university network among 2 continents. 13 years old now, 26 members, 11 from Australia and 15 from Africa. We remain very committed to the purpose and the vision that was originally set for the AAUN, and especially within this theme that we're discussing at this forum, the social license of universities. I think it is a very poignant area to discuss the legitimization of universities, the various publics that universities serve, and very importantly, the impact orientation that we as universities see, but that we also see as a collective, both within continent, among universities, and as separate universities themselves. So what is the type of knowledge that we would like to extend? What is the type of indigenous knowledge that we would like to extend? How do we use partnership to increase our impact? What is the application of that knowledge that truly makes universities worthwhile, but escalates that engagement of universities amongst each other and between each other for us to increase the rate? And that is what we currently very seriously discussing in this new envisioning of AAUN for the future. So currently, as the Strong Collective, we're considering our new strategy up to 2030 and beyond. And of course, it is closely linked to the SDGs and
the opportunity to make some opening remarks, and thanks very much, Karen, for the warm welcome. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and any First Nations people joining us today. I would like to thank the Australia-Africa Universities Network for organising today's session, and thank you for all the work that you do to strengthen relations between Africa and Australia. Education is a key pillar of Australia's engagement in Africa, and you make a very substantial positive contribution. The government is committed to supporting education in Africa. Our development assistance to Africa is highly targeted, and the Australia Awards Africa program continues to play a crucial role in our efforts to build human capital and capacity across Africa to develop the next generation of African leaders. The Australia Awards Africa program.
His Excellency, Jonathan Paramanishi, the Ambassador to Zimbabwe and the Dean of the African Diplomats in Australia.
Karen Jacobs just reminded us that welcome to country constitutes the highest level of respect. Thank you for that reminder. And by extension, I want to extend my respect to the traditional owners of this land on which we're gathering, respect their elders, past, present, and emerging. Having said that, I also want to thank you for raising the subject, thank you for raising the subject of the history that you were so kind to share with us. We really appreciate that. In particular, you mentioned something of interest, and I believe to myself and to my colleague from Botswana, the Acting High Commissioner, when you spoke about the camels, that they're overpopulated, and we've got a regular camel program. I'm sure it's something that we would be engaging in, if not you, but at the appropriate level, because it's a subject of interest for Zimbabwe and Botswana under the CITES arrangement. I thank you. Your Excellencies, Associate Professor David Mikla, AAUN Co-Chair Australia, Professor Aldo Strobel, the AAUN Co-Chair Africa. Welcome you all to the AAUN Forum 2025. As the Dean of the Africa Group of Embassies based in Canberra, as well as the Ambassador of Zimbabwe, it is a great honor to be part of this important gathering. Allow me to pay homage to the late Professor John Herring, who who in 2012 was a co-founder of the AAUN. May his dear soul continue to rest in peace. The best that we all can do to bestow respect to him is to continue to entrench the ideals for which the AAUN was founded by committing ourselves to its objectives. Today, we yet again gather to discuss critical academic-related issues and the future of Africa in Australia. The theme of this year's forum is in particular relevant in that we have set ourselves the task of placing the university under the microscope as we interrogate the functional relationship with government, industry, communities, and any communities in which they are situated. Without going into much detail but in order to stimulate discussion in the ensuing engagements, please allow me to just to flag university-government relationship, and the natural choice for that is evident because I represent government. Governments have the mandate to craft policies that impact overall socio-economic development of their nations. On the other hand, universities are the midwives that bring to fruition those policies. Critical in this nexus is the fact that universities have the capacity to produce well-educated human resources adequately qualified to serve both industry and the public sector in delivering on the policies that governments in their respective jurisdictions would have crafted. It therefore stands to reason that at all times the relationship between universities and governments must test of a strong and durable relationship. Africa and Australia share a common goal: to harness the power of education and innovation to drive economic growth, reduce poverty, and promote sustainable development. Our universities play a vital role in achieving these objectives, and I encourage participants at this forum to engage in frank conversations, discussions on how linkages between Australian and African universities and governments, industry, and their communities, how that relationship can be cultivated and strengthened. As we engage in the coming discussions, I also encourage all of us to think creatively about how we can leverage our respective strengths to address common challenges in both Australia and Africa.
And thank you, Karen, very much for that warm and insightful welcome to country, Kaya. Before I begin, a little levity for the room. I've just returned from Bhutan, where we were holding an Empowering Women in the Workforce conference, and I had the pleasure of meeting His Majesty the King. And he told me I bear a resemblance to Sean Connery. Now, I had to object because, have you ever seen James Bond wear reading glasses? On behalf of Edith Cowan University, I'm delighted to welcome you to Day 2 of the 2025 AAUN Annual Forum. It is a privilege to co-host this event and to welcome you here to the heart of Perth. This year's theme, Social License in Universities, Comparative Perspectives from Australia and Africa, speaks to the shared responsibility we have as institutions to build trust, foster inclusion, and serve our communities with integrity. Africa is an important region for ECU. There was a time, in fact, when my university had campuses in Nairobi and Lusaka, and I hope again that we can have such engagement. We are proud to have recently joined the AAUN, and we look forward to the opportunity this network will bring, not only for ECU, but for our students, researchers, and the broader community. We see AAUN as a vital platform for dialogue, collaboration, and innovation across continents. And I'll pause there to refer to a comment that Aldo made around leapfrogging. And I'll give an example of mobile connectivity and telecommunications. Many of you will know M-Pesa. M-Pesa was founded and telecommunications, mobile payments were started in Africa in 2007. That didn't begin in Australia until 2014. These are the opportunities for innovation and to place unobstructed, in this example by landlines and leapfrogging straight to mobile communication. Therefore, as we continue today's discussions, I encourage you to explore new collaborations and connections. And as we look ahead, I hope many of you will join us next year at our new ECU City campus. If you've had the opportunity or not yet, we are just based in the heart of the city. It will be a hub of innovation and creativity for the city of Perth and beyond. It's a space designed to inspire innovation, global engagement, and transformative learning. So thank you again for being here today, and I wish you a rewarding day ahead.
As the other co-host. Thank you.
Kaya, and good morning. I would like to thank Karen Jacobs for your very warm welcome to country, and I would like to also acknowledge the traditional owners and senior knowledge holders of this beautiful Waitaknunga Puja. I also acknowledge my distinguished fellow speakers and the presence here today of many other distinguished colleagues from the AAUN family and diplomatic community, including your excellencies, university leaders, scholars, students, and community members. Colleagues, on behalf of Curtin University and our Vice Chancellor, Professor Harling Han, I am delighted to welcome you to the AAUN Australia Forum 2025 here in Perth, Australia's gateway with Africa. Curtin University is extremely pleased to be hosting the AAUN Forum this year with our friends and local neighbors. It is Curtin University, one of the network's newest members. As a global university with 7 campuses around the Indian Ocean Rim, located in Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Mauritius, and Australia, Curtin has been a strong and active supporter of AAUN over many years and serves as the institutional co-chair through our Dean of Global Africa, Professor David Mickler.
Now I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Marie Joseph Aisi.
Mr. Chair, Professor David Winkler, Excellencies, distinguished professors co-hosting this event, professors, and dear participants. I'm very honored to join you today at this very important event, which brings together African and Australian universities. I would like to express my warmest thanks. When we discussed the topic with Professor topic of my intervention with Professor Winkler, I have to confess that I have never, coming from a legal background, I was not familiar with the notion of social license. And then we talked, and Professor shared with me a number of articles which helped me to understand a little bit what it's about. And I asked the following question to myself, which I also convey to you as well. What would our world in 2025 look like without universities? Or how would it have been without universities throughout centuries and decades? I would like to ask the following question. What is the value of university at the global development? What has been their contribution? University pre-existed global institutions and have accompanied their creation and institution building, have been involved in and have cooperated with these institutions since inception by proposing solutions to major global challenges through their research activities and knowledge sharing, expertise, guidance, and powerful advocacy. Consciously or unconsciously, they have contributed to disseminate UN principles and values. Most universities have created departments of research really directly linked to these UN principles and codes embodied in the UN Charter. Its contribution and engagement are multifaceted. Firstly, as institutions, universities are key major actors of civil society, which I call here the advocacy value. As such, they participate in multiple international and UN spaces and processes to discuss solutions to global issues and challenges based on their groundwork, the rise and alert on problems faced by their local communities and communities abroad, and call on the state and international institutions to take measures to remedy situations that could potentially threaten peace and security in the context of conflict situation, post-conflict situation, human rights, and dire humanitarian situation, as well as the issue regarding poverty alleviation, environmental action, socio-economic conditions of population across the globe. Concretely, in the human rights domain, which is my domain, also applied to the mandate of the United Nations University engaged as often present report to the different bodies, in particular before the Human Rights Council, which is the main body entrusted by the General Assembly to speak and work on human rights.